Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. It's team news time and we are looking ahead to game week 32. It's a blank game week. As ever, I'm joined by Fantasy Football Scout editor Neale. Neale, welcome. How are you?
All right, Joe. Yeah, not too bad. We got there in the end. It's usually me. I was telling everybody in the chat. It's usually me who's causing the problem, but for once,
it
was my end.
It was something YouTube related. I'd set up the stream and I was pressed all the buttons, ready to go, and then YouTube just says error, playback, and there was absolutely nothing that we'd done out of the ordinary. So it was something YouTube related. So I've hastily set up a new one, deleted that, and somehow that worked. I don't understand these things, but apparently that did, and we're here. So just before we move on, because we do have a tiny bit more extra time because there's less matches this week, just want to welcome those getting on for nearly 400 of you joining us in the live chat. Welcome to Sting in the Tail, FPL Focus, Dommy, BB Defender, Mahomey, Jeremy, Tiger, Rodrev, and FPL Rank Chaser, FPL Wellbeing, Ballroom Jam, Mark Jones, Joshua Richards, and many more. Thank you for joining us. We'll try and give you some good team news, hopefully, and obviously, obviously we'll have an update on Nathan Ferguson, but that'll be a bit later. That's the main draw. Let's start with tonight. It's the deadline tonight, so we have got Arsenal against Southampton. What is the latest from Arsenal?
Well, yeah. Hopefully, in maybe 3 hours' time, we'll maybe get some early leaks. No guarantees, of course, but that would help no end. I think with many people's free hit selections. What we do know is that El Neni and Tomiyasu are out long term. Saliba's not back, no closer to returning really, based on Arteta's comments yesterday. Still not ready to up his workload and training. Zinchenko's the sort of big doubt, or freshest doubt. He's been in training this week. He's been cited in training, but yesterday Arteta said it's not certain. It's a muscular injury and it needs some time to heal, and we're not there yet. So. Okay. I wonder if he's maybe preserving him for that Man City game next Wednesday. And we'll go again with Tierney, but at least he was on the grass. So that was it on the injury front. There was some quotes on Saka and Jesus as well. Saka in terms of penalties, because of course he missed one last weekend. Arteta basically confirming he's still on pens. He says he's going to throw him the ball himself if no one else does. Ooh. And then on Jesus. He was asked if he would be able to last 90 minutes, which he hasn't done yet since his return from injury. He says, we're still being careful. This was the line that people's probably worrying about. He said, we've got players that can change the game that are fully fit, that probably deserve to play as well. Ooh. So obviously that's caused a bit of concern, I think, amongst prospective Jesus owners. But I'm still thinking it'll be those three players starting again up top.
Yeah, I think so. That does seem to indicate to me they'll start. But around the 60th minute mark, we will continue seeing Trossard come on.
Yeah, I think so.
Which on my free hit and many others, that might make me want to think, well, maybe I'll look elsewhere in Arsenal. But then again, Jesus, what's he got? 4 goals, 3 games, or something like that.
And top for big chances as well, despite the limited game time in that period as well.
So maybe he'll come back into my free hit team. Let's move on to Southampton. Che Adams, Livramento, they were the names that were out last time. Are they still out?
They are, yeah. There's only one person back, and that's Mislav Orsic, and he's just squad player anyway. So yeah, Larios out long term. Salisu, Adams still out. Livramento was fit, just not match fit. He played for the Southampton B team last Friday. And there's one fresh absentee. That's not injury. It's Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who's of course on loan from Arsenal, and he can't face his parent club.
Okay, so we'll move swiftly on to Fulham against Leeds. This could be quite high scoring because both their defences are suspect, particularly Leeds. And Fulham have been quite attacking recently. So, but Mitrovic is still out, still suspended. Number 4 out of 8, something like that.
It is. Yep. This is 4 of 8. Yeah.
And
he's going to be.
Yeah. What else from Fulham?
Yeah, they much like Southampton. Actually, they've got a player who can't play because he's on loan from the parent club they're playing this weekend. So that's Daniel James, who actually had a good game last week. Scored against Leeds. Was playing as scored against Everton, playing as a false 9 or central striker. He can't play, so Mitrovic is out as well. Kazawa, I think, still out, and Cabano's back. Actually, he's been out for like 6 months, but He's in training and will probably be involved in the squad. There was one line of note from Silva. It was about who's going to play up top because Mitrovic can't play, James can't play. He says either going to be Vinicius or Deco Dova-Reid.
Oh, okay. So they intriguing differentials. If you're that way inclined. For Leeds as well, Dallas and Adams would seem to be long-term injuries. I'm presuming they're still out. But any other changes?
Yeah. Yeah, Bamford is the sort of headline one, although he's not been an FPL name for some time. They're not sure whether he's going to recover yet. He says they're going to have to wait until the end of the training sessions. And in classic Gracia style, said he didn't know if he's going to be ready or not. Okay. Two players who were on the bench on Monday, Max Wober and Ganondo as well, they are ready for more game time according to Gracia.
Okay, and we can move swiftly on. Brentford Villa. This is could be another high-scoring game. Brentford obviously with Tony up front, and Villa with the man in form, Ollie Watkins, Pastor Ollie, as he says. So what shape are Brentford in for this? And then before we address Villa, so Brentford first.
I think it's as you were. So Janssen and Lewis Potter out for the season probably. Christopher Ajer is close to full training, but not ready for this one. And apart from that, I think it's as you were.
Okay, and Aston Villa, Matty Cash was out. He was amongst the absentees anymore. Is he still out?
It's much the same as Brentford, so it's exactly the same as it was last week. So Cash, Kamara, Coutinho, all, I think the timeline was about up now. We thought they might be back, but none of them are going to be available for that Brentford game. All of them out. Leon Bailey as well. I think he was cited in training, but again, still not ready to return. So those four still out and nothing new reported from Emery.
Okay.
Although I should say, Ollie Watkins had his second child, I think, was it Wednesday or Thursday? So hopefully he's not too tired for the weekend.
Not bad for a man who wasn't even pregnant. You mean
yes, he can do anything.
Mrs. Watkins.
If he turns his hand to it, he can do anything, that lad, at the moment.
He's so good. He's so good. He can create children in front of goal. Let's move on to the headline news. Nathan Ferguson. It's Nathan Ferguson and some other blokes. I think they're called Crystal Palace against Everton. What's the latest from Palace?
So Hodgson said there was no changes to the injury situation. So that means nobody returning and nobody freshly injured. So Klein, Guaita and Zaha, you're still talking in terms of those three being out. Zaha and Klein aiming to return next week. So it looks good for a Sam Johnson start. That's who you've got as your goalkeeper. And given there was no mention of Ferguson by name, but given that he said there was no players returning, we assume that
that's
friendly sidelined Ferguson is still sidelined.
Okay, and Everton. I mean, Calvert-Lewin's always the headline news. Will he start? Which column will he go in when we round it up at the end? Questionable or major doubts?
Well, I think he's been upgraded this week from major doubt to if there's one in between questionable and fit, then that's probably what it is. Ooh. Because he's played in a friendly in midweek against Chester City. Bayern closed those friendly, which Everton lost 1-0 with lots of first teamers playing. That's a good sign for this weekend. So he is in the thinking, according to Dyche. He was taken off after 70-odd minutes in that friendly. No fatigue. Dyche just said it was just common sense to take him off then. And they're going to decide closer to kick-off whether they will start him or whether he's going to come off the bench. Elsewhere, Coleman's still out. Decore suspended. Vinagre and Townsend sidelined as well. Onana could return in midfield. He's had a niggling groin injury, but he's trained a bit, and they're going to assess him before kickoff.
Okay, let's move on to Leicester v Wolves. I mean, geographically, it's sort of a derby-ish, Midlandsy, but I mean, I don't know. Do they hate each other? I'm not sure.
Well, I think Dean Smith doesn't like Wolves, from what I've read, so that's a derby of sorts. Yeah,
fair enough. There's probably some interesting news. I know there were quite a few injuries last time out for Leicester. So, what's the situation now?
The big one's Harvey Barnes, who was always going to be touch and go for this one, but he's not quite ready to return. Dean Smith was talking in terms of a game week 33 comeback, so he may be ready for next week. He's on the grass anyway.
Okay.
Vestergaard, Pereira, Justin, they're all out as well. Ryan Bertrand, remember him? He was involved in an under-21s match on Monday, so he's building up his match fitness.
Ryan Bertrand, did you say?
Ryan Bertrand, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He wasn't played, I think, in about 14 or 15 months. So he's still in the books. Yeah. And he's trying to get back match fit.
Champions League.
Ryan
Bertrand.
Yeah, former Chelsea, former Southampton, left back. Still there. Johnny Evans, of course, another one who's always absent. This time he's going to miss out with a virus. So, I wonder if we'll see that. I wonder if we'll see the wingerless wing-backs set up of last week because they haven't got many wide options fit.
Okay, James Maddison, obviously he's going to start. So that where would that position James Maddison?
Well, it depends on the setup, I suppose. If Smith goes with a wing-back system or, two up top, then he can still play in the hole. If he goes back to that 4-3-3 that Rodgers was playing and with Maddison sort of crowbarred in on the right, then you'd be less fancying him there. But as we discussed last week, like he had a good record with Grealish at Villa, getting the best out of a slightly maverick playmaker. So there's hope there for Maddison that Smith can get the best of it. And he did come close to scoring last week against Man City.
Okay, and obviously Wolves are on paper a lesser opposition than Man City, and with Wolves as well. What was I mean? Diego Costa could be fit for this, and he has scored recently.
It was his first goal, of the season last weekend in the win over Brentford. I think the implication was that he's fine because he came off with a knock, but Lopetegui said that there was no real concerns, and he's pretty much presser, so we think he's all right. Also back, Neves and Johnny, they were suspended, but they're now available. And Lopetegui says he's got a real selection dilemma with Neves. Of course, he's normally first choice, automatic pick, but they performed so well without him. So I think that just leaves Chiquinho and Kalajic on the sidelines for the rest of the season.
Okay.
So a pretty fit squad.
Okay, and next match, this is the biggie really, because whether free hitting or not, Liverpool against Nottingham Forest, that's where we're looking at our captaincy on someone like Salah. We're expecting a haul basically, so we're very keen. Yeah. But who will start? Because there is a lot of attackers, but is there one less attacker amongst Liverpool ranks? So what's the latest from Liverpool?
Yeah, not somebody that many people are going to own, but could have an implication in terms of game time. So he did have six attackers all fit for all of one game. That was Leeds on Monday, but he's lost one, and that's Roberto Firmino. So he's going to be out for probably the next 3 league matches at the very least with a muscle injury. So that's first half of game week 34 at the minimum. So he's the only real injury of note. Of course, they've still got Ramsey, Bajcetic, and Keita out. But there was a lot of interesting quotes otherwise on those attacking options.
Okay,
so I'll read you a few here. Yeah, I've just transcribed them for the site. Firstly, he was asked how he will fit 5 attackers into 3 slots over the coming weeks. And he said, firstly, the ticket into the team must be counter-pressing, so getting the ball back, playing the Klopp way. Whether that was a little, I don't know, a covert diss of Darwin, I'm not quite sure, but he says that's what you have to do. You have to once you get the chance to play, you got to do that, and if you do that, then you got a good chance to start again. So he then went on to say there will be changes in the next 2 weeks. They've got 5 Premier League games coming up in the space of a fortnight, and he says Darwin will start at some point. So obviously, free hitters, you're not concerned too much about that. But if you're not on a free hit and you're looking longer term, certainly medium term at Liverpool, you are going to get a benching, I think, out of most of your players in the next 2 weeks, even if it isn't this weekend, because they do come at a rat-a-tat pace, the games. There was a quote on Darwin as well. I would just recommend everyone go to the website and the team news page because they're lengthy, the quotes, and they're transcribed in full. So just head there. I'll just give you the gist on Darwin. He says he's a player with a different skill set. So he's a long-term project as well. So he's kind of pointing at him being benched more than not, I think, in the short term. That they kind of got to adapt to him and he's got to adapt to them. That he can barely speak English as well. So there was a lot of mildly negative comments on him. And I that sort of firmed up my thinking that I think it might be the same front 3 this weekend.
Right, yeah.
But beyond that, he's going to start probably maybe 2 of the next 5.
Okay.
So yeah.
So if Darwin's coming on, who will he come on for? More likely to be Jota on the left rather than Gakpo in the centre?
You would think so, but you would think so. But of course, they've now got a surplus of left wing options because Diaz is back fit, or at least injury free. He's not going to start for some time, Luis Diaz. But of course, he's predominantly left winger. Klopp was asked about this again. He said he can play both positions. He can play through the middle. He can play on the left.
Who's that?
I think
Darwin. Sorry,
Darwin can play in either of those positions. I do think that he isn't quite the centre forward that Klopp wants at the moment because Gakpo is more Firmino-esque. with that kind of, off the ball grafting, dropping deep, and link up play and all that kind of stuff. So Darwin is very much the opposite of that. He's a hitman. So possibly Jota for the moment, but with Firmino out, he'll have to provide relief, I think, for Gakpo at some point.
Okay, so if we think there's going to be the front three, sorry, Forest fans for ignoring you for the time being, but Liverpool are important this week. It sounds like Salah's sort of as 100% nailed on as he can be, probably 99%. You never know, but pretty much nailed on. And then we think Gakpo through the middle, and then Jota on the left, with Darwin coming on, and Diaz coming on at some point.
Yeah.
So out of those, Gakpo would sound like he's slightly more nailed on, purely because Firmino's out now, so there's that risk has gone. And
I was slightly elevated. Yeah.
Whereas it's more likely that Jota will start. Yeah, I know a lot of people will be interested in that. So obviously, that may not happen. We can't get inside Klopp's head entirely, but this is just what we would assume from the knowledge that we have so far. On to their victims, opponents, Nottingham Forest. What's the state of affairs from Steve Cooper, and can we trust anything he says?
Yeah, I described him as a noted truth bender in the team news article yesterday. That's one for the second mentions Twitter page. So this is what he said. He says we were as we were on the team news front, which is exactly what he said last week. And then lo and behold, Lodi came back and Niakate came back, so he's lying. We know that Wood, Bolly, Bianconi and Richard are definitely out. Henderson's had a setback, by the way. Dean Henderson, he's had a setback in training, so we think he's out too. Colback's had a concussion, that's why he hasn't been cited recently. The shorter-term absentees, Yates, Aurier, Scarpa, Kouyaté. Now, if Cooper is to be believed, then none of them are going to be back. But we've seen it repeatedly every week. Right. He said no one's going to return, and then they do return. So any number of them could be back. I think Aurier even tweeted something the other day about him. I'll see you soon to the Forest fans.
So either we've listed the starting 11 or we've listed the injury list. Take that what you will. Let's move over to Sunday. 2 matches on Sunday. Bournemouth against West Ham. I find it's difficult to call. Solanke's very popular in teams, but West Ham have picked up a bit of form recently. So it's a bit unsure what's going to happen here. But what shape are Bournemouth in ahead of this?
Pretty good. So Frederick Stanislas Traore is still out, but they're hopeful of Vina recovering from. He came off last week with a back injury, but he's done some light training since then. So O'Neill's hopeful of having him in the matchday squad at the very least.
Okay, righty. West Ham as well. So they only played last night.
It is
obviously doing well in Europe. What state of affairs is going on at West Ham ahead of this?
Again, pretty good condition in terms of the squad fitness. Moyes faced the media this afternoon and said hopefully everyone's going to be fine following last night. Says they think they've all come through unscathed. The 2 players that were missing last night were Scamacca, who's going to be out for some time. He's had knee surgery. And Ogbonna, who actually started last Thursday's game, the first leg, I think. And he had a minor back problem that kept him out of the Arsenal game, but he wasn't involved last night either. So he's the only one, apart from Scamacca, who's flagged.
Righty-o. And final match. So we're rattling through this. Newcastle against Tottenham. Let's go with your side, Newcastle first. How are they as they face Spurs? In a real crunch tie, this, isn't it? Obviously going for top 4, both teams.
Yeah, we could probably afford to get away with a draw. Even a defeat wouldn't be the end of the world. But I think Spurs, it's absolute must win if they've got any chance of a top 4 place. Newcastle team-wise, Emil Kraft's still out, and Alan Saint-Maximin's still out as well. He's not expected back until next week, and that's just at the training ground. So I don't know how long it'll be before he's match fit. Even Howe himself said he wasn't 100% sure this afternoon. I think that's it. Almiron returned as a substitute last week, so he's pushing for a recall.
Yeah.
Howe said he's in contention and an option. Right. And Longstaff's fine as well. He was on the bench last weekend because of tonsillitis, but he's fit to start.
And as for Spurs, there was quite a lengthy sort of long-term injury list. I don't know if that's easing at all.
Slightly, yeah. So Royale, Sessegnon, Bentancur and Basuma are still out. Lucas Moura, this is the final game of his ban. But Ben Davies is back in training, so he's one of those medium-term absentees. Probably not going to be ready to feature on Sunday, according to Stellini, but he's on the grass anyway, so maybe looking at game week 33 and beyond. And unexpected good news actually on Longley, who I think we all thought was going to be out for this. He came off with a muscle injury last weekend against Bournemouth, but he's partly trained since, and Stellini said he was confident that he could train fully tomorrow and then be in contention for Sunday. So otherwise, it was looking at it was either going to be Tanganga, who's so rarely featured, or the man who was booed off by his own fans last weekend, Davinson Sanchez.
Okay. And before we move on to the team news roundup, just a reminder to press that like button and do subscribe if you're not already, so you can keep up to date with all our videos. Also, if you can't watch us video, like all our videos during the week, they're uploaded as podcasts as well, so you can listen to us rather than look at us. Let's have a look at this team news roundup. So what have we got so far? Costa's fit to play. Aguard and Longstaff, they were doubts sort of during the week, but now they're not. Questionable, but as you said, could be moving into the fit to play territory. Calvert-Lewin with his hamstrings. Major doubt is Zinchenko with his injury. It sounds like he's not going to be risked for this one and safe for Man City. So Maximin with his hamstring has got a problem. Langley with his injury could be back, but it sounds like he probably won't be. You never know. Meanwhile, there's quite a few out, and it's not really due to injury with a lot of them. With Firmino, it is a muscle injury there. Scamacca with his knee injury. Adams at Southampton, still injured, but it's apart from this, Zaha's got his groin injury still, so he's likely to be out, but could be back for 33. But it's Lucas Moura is suspended. We have another suspension with Decore. I've called him Kukore there, so apologies for that. Mitrovic is still suspended. Maitland-Niles is ineligible against his parent club. Same with Dan James is ineligible. Meanwhile, Bailey at Aston Villa. There's quite a few Aston Villa players out, Cash and Coutinho, but Bailey is one of the newest ones there with his hamstring problems. Saliba not back with his back, not back because of his back. Coleman has got hamstring issues still. Harvey Barnes unlikely to play because of his hamstring as well. And I think that's most of it there. Apart from the misspelling of Decore. The Duke himself.
And Longley.
And Longley have done. Oh yeah, I've called him Langley.
I would move him and Zinchenko to maybe questionable, because I think they're slightly elevated the major doubt, and Sir Maximum is out. But yeah, apart from that, bang on. Okay,
that's good. I did that in a bit of a hurry, and so it shows. But thanks a lot, all those who joined us. I'm gonna go off and finalize my free hit team and wonder who on earth is going to be in it by the time I get to the deadline. And good luck with all your team decisions this week, whether you're using a chip or not. We've got loads more videos and podcasts next week. It's game week 33 and 34 is a midweek deadline, so we've got the usual like Scoutcasts and Goals Imminent. We'll cover off game week 33 and game week 34, and then we're just going to get really right into that double game week 34. We've got Harry's video, burning questions, all the usual, all the regulars, and we'll be back again for team news as well. So thanks a lot for joining us. Good luck with the week. See you soon.
Hello.